Okay, I call the meeting to order. If you could please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh boy.
You threw us off there for a minute, George, because you're on a little bit of a delay.
We gotta have him start.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right, so welcome everyone. Today's Thursday, February 4th, 2021. This is the Town of Riverhead Planning Board meeting. Just ask everyone to mute their phones or computers who are not ready to speak, so we don't have any audio problems. And also I'll mention that we do have member George Nanaro joining us by video conference, so we do have a full board here tonight. First item on our agenda is PSEG Canopy Project on Doctor's Path in Riverhead.
All right, I believe for this application, we do have some representatives for the application. I believe Caitlin Servideo of Basilico Architects. I know we have Chris Corrado, I believe from the engineering company, and Mr., I believe, Robert Del Monte. So, good evening, Planning Board. The Planning Department has received and reviewed an administrative site plan application proposing to construct 3 new steel canopies totaling 25,960 square feet over an existing paved parking area at the PSEG National Grid facility on Doctor's Path in order to provide protection to vehicle fleets during inclement weather. Site plan also proposes to relocate existing drainage systems in order to facilitate stormwater management on site. The proposed action is an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA. While the installation of the canopies in and of itself does not pose any significant negative environmental impacts, there are some concerns which will be detailed in this report regarding the existing and historic use of the property and the conditions of the parcel. Prior to the issuance of a determination of significance or approval of the project, staff would recommend that the applicant satisfactorily address these issues to the satisfaction of the Planning Board. The subject parcel is a 21.1 acre parcel of land located at 117 Doctor's Path within the Business Center Zoning Use District. Property is presently improved with several single-story masonry buildings which house PSEG and National Grid's storage, maintenance, and some operational offices, as well as a fueling station for their vehicle fleet. There's also a number of steel storage containers and related equipment throughout the yard, which is fenced off and is not accessible to the general public. The surrounding area is of mixed use, with the property directly to the north of the subject parcel being the site of the New Jerusalem Church, which is presently under construction. There's a single-family residential parcel located directly across Doctor's Path to the east, and there is a Suffolk County-owned drainage area located directly to the west of the subject parcel, along with the Riverhead Water District well site plant number 5. As far as the proposed canopies go, they are proposing 3 canopies. The canopies have a size of approximately 5,300 square feet, 13,000 square feet, and 7,600 square feet, and are proposed at a height of 20 feet 3 inches. Proposed canopy B does include 20 roof-mounted solar panels. Staff does note that the proposed utility lighting, which is mounted on the underside of the canopies, although it will be obscured by the canopies themselves, these fixtures are proposed at 4,000 degree color temperature. Staff would recommend that the plans be revised to show these fixtures as 3,000 degree Kelvin, as they will be exterior fixtures. Staff does note that the visual impact from the installation of the proposed canopies is extremely minimal, as the area of work is effectively obscured by the main single-story office building. The only location or vantage point that they would actually be visible from any public right-of-way would be seen on page 2, figure 3 on my staff report. There's a small vantage point from where they would be visible. During a site visit conducted by planning staff, as noted in figure 4, like I said, there are a number of steel storage containers and assorted PSEG equipment throughout the site. While this type of storage and use would not usually be permitted in the Business Center Zoning District, the current use was lawfully established with permits in 1969, meaning that the site is considered a pre-existing non-conforming use. The installation of the proposed canopies, as there's no increase in floor area or a modification of the use of the property, would not be considered an expansion of use, and as such would not require a special permit from the town board. Staff did note that on the site plan, there is a monitoring well, which is located on the plan that's shown in the vicinity directly to the north of the 14,000 square foot masonry building. In conversations that I've had with the applicant since the publication of the report, I'm understanding that this well is no longer in use. It was installed as part of prior environmental conditions. And although the proposed installation of the canopies is not anticipated to contribute to any negative environmental impacts, there is a history of spills and DEC activities on the property. As you see in Figure 5, I just did a quick clip from the New York State DEC spill database. It does identify a total of, I believe there's 17 spills that have happened on the site dating back to 1993. The current status of those spills is that they're all closed per the DEC regulations. All of those individual spills have either been addressed or remediated in some fashion. I did refer the plans to the Riverhead Water District based on the proximity to the plant number 5. The Riverhead Water District stated that they do not believe the installation of the proposed canopies will have any negative impacts on our nearby Plant 5 located at 162 Middle Road, although they would like to take the opportunity to inform the applicant that due to the close proximity to the water supply facility, the applicant should take every precaution possible to contain and eliminate any possible sources of groundwater contamination. The applicant has provided a cut and fill analysis as far as to identify the need for any import or export of materials from the site. That report, which was received yesterday, identified that they'll need to remove approximately 70 cubic yards of broken asphalt and approximately 190 cubic yards of soil to be exported from the site. In terms of the environmental impacts, the spill history, we did receive some information yesterday which was distributed to the board, and I do have the project applicants here. They can speak to the history on that property and in more details regarding the spills or if there's any remediation necessary. So at this point, I would like to ask the board if they have any questions, and if not, we can address have the applicant address any concerns.
Greg, I don't have any questions, but I do agree with your assessment of the lighting. I think it should go from 4K to 3K. Other than that, I have no other issues with it.
Greg, did the fire marshal comment on the canopies with the solar panels on top?
No, they did not. I can get comments on them before we grant any approvals.
Yeah, I'd like to see what they have to say because, you know, it's solar on top of the structure.
Is there someone that's on the Zoom that can talk about the spills?
Yes, Caitlin Servideo from the architect's office, who in the meeting can speak to the history of the DEC spills on that property?
Good evening. This is Caitlin. We have Bob Del Monte here, but also we have Bob Keene, which is at Basilico's senior environmental engineer. So he can speak to any questions you have. Just to point out, as Greg mentioned, all of the spills have been closed by the New York State DEC, and we looked into all of them, and it seems that they were all handled appropriately. There are spills reported anything from, I believe, the lowest was 1 or 2 gallons, up to, you know, whatever the highest one was. But the point is that the owner of the property is trying to do their due diligence in reporting all of these spills, and then handling it appropriately. So, Bob, I don't know if you'd like to add anything to that in our history, but...
No, hi, I'm Bob Keene. I'm from Basilico. I've got a couple screens, so I'm sorry I'm looking this way. As Caitlin mentioned, I mean, I looked into all the spills, and every single one of those was closed. Most of them were, I think, under 20 gallons. Most were a couple gallons. And obviously, they did what they had to do with reporting. Most of them were on impervious surfaces. They did have one large spill, which was 800 gallons. I think that was, I don't remember when, like 19, or maybe like 2000. Again, that was closed. Somebody had a question about a spill that impacted groundwater, which PSC&G and National Grid had provided information. It was closed, I think, 7 or 8 years later, but they did a remediation. They had an air sponge soil vapor extraction system, which cleaned up the groundwater to the point where the DEC was happy. And that spill was closed as well. And that spill also was from, I think it was closed in 2004, so that's like almost 20 years ago, or 18 years ago. So I I don't know if there's any other questions regarding the environmental side of things.
What
I
was
think
it-
they
what
try to
was-
do everything as responsibly as they can.
You said there was a remediation for one of the spills, is that right?
As, according to the
And what was-
documentation that we've
and
received
what
from
was
the
the-
owner, yes.
What was the contaminant?
I think it was VTEX and MTBE and groundwater.
Okay, thank you.
So they did a soil vapor extraction system for, I think, maybe 6 years, from 1997 until 2004. And they were doing quarterly monitoring with the DEC, sending reports to the DEC. And I guess in 2003 was their last report. And in 2004, the DEC found sufficient reasons to close the spill. So I guess they got no further action. And that spill was subsequent.
And we did provide this information to Greg, so he has the documentation on this particular spill in his possession. So if you'd like to see more information on what we've been looking at.
Again, just to remind the board that this spill was closed in 2004.
So what's the flow, the groundwater flow direction here?
That I don't have off the top of my head. I'm peripherally involved. I know that the groundwater is shallow. I think from the reports I saw, it was like 10 feet.
Correct, and we're only excavating to about 5 feet, just to pour the footings and any drainage.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, I did speak to the Water District Superintendent, and based on his records and available data, he believes that this site would be down gradient, I believe. So the water would be flowing towards the site as opposed to flowing towards the Riverhead Water District well site. So it's not like, based on his records, it didn't appear as though it would be picking up any contamination and heading towards the well site.
So we're having
And
a,
obviously the well next door is deeper, and I would assume if groundwater is flowing towards, the water body, it would be going in a south, eastern direction.
we're having a monitor on the situation.
I mean, we haven't gotten to the point of any approvals yet, to the point of requiring monitors. Like I said, they are going to be exporting 190 cubic yards, I believe, 190 cubic yards of soil, so that will require a Chapter 229 export permit. If the board finds it appropriate to do any sort of sampling before that material is brought off-site. I do know I did raise that issue with the applicant. They do work with or operate a soil cleaning facility, I believe in Farmingdale. So they are registered with the DEC, and I believe I did share that with the board once I received it. But if that's a concern of the board, that could be something that could be imposed as a condition of approval.
I'd like to see the comments for the fire marshal on, because there's rooftop solar.
All right. I can get that. Did the board have any other concerns, or if we address if I can get comments from the fire marshal, would the board be in a position to approve this? Or I could prepare a resolution, we can consider it at that point?
Yeah, I don't have any other issues.
Yeah, I have a question, Greg.
Yes.
I'm sure they have a design professional that's put together these canopies, and it's very difficult to ascertain the actual size of these panels, these solar panels. But my question is, I guess, if they can support solar panels, why are they not using more? Because there's it's over half acre. There's solar all over where, we have one in front of us tonight. Why not add to what they're proposing? Add more solar to it.
I think we can relay that to the applicant. They're coming in proposing a certain number. I don't know if we can require more, but that's certainly something that would be worth entertaining.
Well, they're still on, right?
I'm not sure that Greg, I'm not sure that we can require it, but I think it might be a good idea to look at, because because of the size of 25,000 square feet. It's a fair amount of panels, and obviously, if the structures support them, why not put them in? Ask the question.
We'd be happy to speak to the client regarding the solar panels and provide an answer to you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, anything else? All right, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is Calverton Solar Energy Center, Nextera, Edwards Avenue in Calverton.
All right, I believe we do have a few representatives in here. The applicant's attorney, Steve LaSquadro, and I believe we have some representatives from Nextera as well. So this is a project update for the site plan application that the planning board is reviewing to construct a 22.9 megawatt commercial solar energy production facility on 2 parcels located in Calverton, one at 149 Edwards Avenue and the other at a unnumbered parcel on River Road. In terms of SECRA, the town board of the town of Riverhead, by resolution number 2020-108, dated February 4th, 2020, assumed lead agency for the purposes of coordinated SECRA review and issued a negative declaration for the special permit and site plan applications. In the report, I did list a number of the findings that were recited in that resolution. As far as the special permit, the town board, by resolution 2020-108, dated December 1st, 2020, granted the special permit for Nextera with conditions and also amended the secret negative declaration to reflect modifications to the plans which were imposed as conditions of that special permit. Some of those conditions in that special permit were that an easement or similar written instrument, that the applicant shall provide an easement or other similar written instrument and shall co-sign any grant applications or authorization for the use of a portion of the subject premises for a non-motorized recreational trail. There were conditions regarding getting site plan approval, maintaining vegetative buffers, providing irrigation systems to maintain the vegetative buffers as opposed to, with wells, as opposed to using public water. Condition that any evergreen plantings installed in the vegetative buffers must be a minimum of 5 foot tall at the time of planting. The special permit was granted for a period of 30 years, which the town board granted the initial 20-year duration and 2 5-year extensions. They granted them consecutively. The applicant will require to provide a form of surety through escrow account, bond, or otherwise to cover the cost of removal and decommissioning. And that the decommissioning estimate that the applicant had prepared would be revised to remove any consideration for sale, salvage, recycling of the components of the proposed solar farm, as the market for sale, salvage, or recycling of the components 30 years from now would be unknown. There were conditions that were special permit conditions that were to be satisfied prior to site plan approval, which are specifically in the planning board's purview. One of them was that the applicant, Nextera, shall enter into a payment in lieu of taxes or pilot agreement to the satisfaction of the town of Riverhead. The applicant shall obtain an easement from the town of Riverhead for the installation of the underground electrical connection underneath Edwards Avenue. That the town of Riverhead and the applicant shall agree upon and execute a community benefits agreement in a form approved by resolution of the town board. That the applicant shall obtain an easement from the owner of the neighboring property for the installation of the underground electrical connection line, and that the site plan drawings shall be revised to include a 20-foot wide easement for the purposes of establishing an extension of the EPCAL recreation trail in a form and location deemed appropriate by the planning board. So just to bring the board up to date on those specific conditions that were required prior to site plan approval, in terms of the pilot agreement, the applicant has initiated the contact with the town attorney's office. There is a section of real property tax law, I believe it's section 487. They have submitted a written letter of intent to construct the proposed facility, which will then trigger a 60-day period where the town or owner must enter into that pilot agreement. So that process is underway. The town board, by resolution number 2020-649, did authorize the town supervisor to execute an approved memorandum and utility easement between Long Island Solar Generation and the town of Riverhead for the easement under Edwards. By resolution number 2020-646, the town board authorized the town supervisor to execute a community benefits agreement. As of the publication date of this report, though, the town attorney's office had not yet received anything back from the applicant. In terms of the easement under the neighboring parcel, the applicant did just make a submission today electronically, and I It appears as though the easement was contained in there. However, I haven't had a chance to refer to the town attorney's office for their review on it. And then in regards to the extension of the EPCAL rec trail, the specific language in that approval resolution was that the site plan drawings shall be revised to include a 20-foot easement in a form and location deemed appropriate by the Riverhead Planning Board. Now, on page 6, being that the language in the town board resolution was somewhat vague, it's assumed that the initial intent was to get some sort of trail that would encircle the proposed solar farm. On figure 1, I just did a rough sketch of what the assumed location of that extension of the trail would be. In discussions with the applicant, they had raised a number of concerns in terms of safety of the facility, the feasibility of the engineering of moving everything in 20 feet. In an effort to try to move this along, I did conduct a site visit on January 19th, 2021. During that site visit, I did take a walk through the existing wooded area, which is located on the western side of that parcel. You can see in the aerial in figure 2, I've highlighted that in red. Now within that, it's approximately a 27-acre wooded area, 1.2 million square feet. It's roughly 1,000 feet wide by 1,200 feet wide. There is an existing network of dirt trails that were typical throughout that property. I don't know if they were hiking trails, biking trails, dirt bike trails, but there is a rather extensive network of existing trails that could be utilized. The applicant has agreed to put a conservation and recreation easement over that entire 27-acre parcel, which would preserve it in perpetuity. Now that area could be accessed from the EPCAL trail. If you see on the western side, there's basically a chain link fence. The town on its property could remove a few sections of that chain link fence to allow for people using that bike trail to then kind of cut off into that wooded area, utilize it for more off-road, mountain biking, hiking, what have you. So that's something that requires specific input from the planning board. If they find that that location, the 27 acres over that wooded area, providing that easement, is appropriate. A couple other quick updates. The applicant did receive a New York State DEC freshwater wetlands permit, wild scenic and recreational rivers permit. They did receive approval from the Town Conservation Advisory Council. However, prior to scheduling a public hearing on this application, there are a number of issues which still need to be addressed and reviewed. One of them being, number 1, the site plan does propose a collector substation near the eastern property boundary of the property located at 149 Edwards Avenue, the Long Island Sports Park. I stated that the applicant needs to provide details of this facility, height, visual impacts, side profile drawings, etc. The applicant did just submit them today, so I do not have a report prepared to analyze the impacts of that. That will be one thing that will be forthcoming in the review of the project. The landscaping profile to be provided for the northern portions of both parcels. Again, the applicant has provided revised plans, but I will provide in detail a further report once I have a chance to fully analyze that. The applicant has provided one of those easements, I believe, for that neighboring parcel. However, they also will require an easement on the eastern side of Edwards Avenue on the LIPA property for the installation of their underground transmission line. As of the submission that they've submitted today, they noted that that easement is still pending, so we have not received that yet. In terms of the complete utility profile, on sheet C317 of the site plan does indicate the utility profile. However, that utility profile only shows existing underground power lines and an existing gas line. That utility profile fails to identify the Riverhead Water District water main, which is located in the Edwards Avenue. That's something that needs to be shown on the site plan in order to ensure that there's no conflicts when they go to install the underground Gentile line. There were some discrepancies in their title report between the meets and bounds description, which is shown on a site plan, versus what's recorded in the title report. They have submitted a letter. Again, I received that today. I've got to send that over to the town attorney's office for their review and comment. The legal description of the easement under Edwards Avenue needs to be shown in the site plan. and details of the proposed underground electrical connection lines underneath Edwards Avenue should be shown. The applicant did respond. They said that there will be 6 conduit lines installed underneath Edwards Avenue, but the details of those lines are not shown. Again, which is something that's been of critical importance to this board in understanding these projects is, will these underground connection lines be used to feed any further facilities, or will they be limited to just the energy that's generated at this facility? That concludes my report. I now ask the board if they have any input, any questions.
Greg, I see that the lot is pretty much landlocked, except for a small stretch on River Road. That looks like it's proposed landscaping there. See that on the very last page? There's only a small stretch of property that's actually road frontage.
Correct, about 600 feet, yes.
Okay, how about if we berm that and then landscape it?
Did the representatives from the application hear that question about berming the 600-foot frontage on River Road and then landscape on top of that berm to provide a adequate visual buffer from the property, from the public right-of-way?
I did hear that, yes.
Do you think, would there be any objections to that?
I'll have to ask the applicant.
All right.
So I'm sure they're considering that right now.
Yeah, we can, this is Michael Dowling. We can look into that. We think we've provided a pretty robust, landscaping plan to make sure that it is all, taken care of. But we can definitely take a look into it. But I would advise, the board to take a look over the updated landscaping plans that we submitted today. We think that is it's more than adequate.
Good.
Just got that today?
Again, yes, I did receive a packet. There was a large submission via email. Again, I haven't had time to go through and provide an analysis of all the reports, but yes, they
Well,
did.
when you do, let us know what your opinion is.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Sure. And if I could just add, this is Bill Bohr, with the applicant. Berming sometimes isn't the best for the landscape plant itself, just because if you're raising it up on a berm, then you're, taking it away from, the natural rainwater is going to be more inclined to run off. As you'll see, we proposed some pretty tall trees along the roadway. So as Michael had indicated, we feel like that'll provide pretty effective screening right off the bat when they're installed.
Thank you.
All right, I got a couple things here, Greg. The man-made ponds, what's gonna happen to the man-made ponds that are on the property right now?
So the man-made ponds will be filled in. That was one thing that they went from to the CAC for. So they will be filled in. They are lined ponds, so that those ponds will be filled in. I know one of the concerns of the board was if there's any animals, frogs, turtles living in those ponds, the need for them to be relocated.
So, I mean, I used to play golf at the site, and I can't tell you how many times that one man-made pond, when you first go in, large turtles in and out of there while you're playing. So we need to do something. I mean, they just shouldn't be filled in. They should be drained and see if there's anything that needs to be relocated into another pond. And I think that, along with that, the grading and erosion plan, I think we should have somebody monitor those construction activities to make sure they're handled appropriately.
The project, as it disturbs more than an acre, will require a stormwater pollution prevention plan, so they will be required to have those monitors and do the reporting related to the stormwater pollution prevention plan. So we will take care of that.
All right, back at our meeting on August 1st, 2019, we had requested a letter from PSEG or LIPA about the capacity. How much can that substation handle and how much will be used, how much will be left over after this project? And I don't recall getting that letter from LIPA or PSE&G.
If I may address that, it's Stephen LaSquatra on behalf of the applicant. We did honor your request to reach out to LIPA/PSE&G, and my understanding is that LIPA/PSEG communicated directly with or to the town attorney.
Okay, we had asked for something in writing from them.
I think there was by email, so I think they communicated in writing, but it was with Mr. Kazakevich, the town attorney. Now, that wasn't shared with me, but I was told that it happened.
Okay,
And I
but-
think planning staff confirmed that it did take place.
But we haven't seen it, and nothing was addressed to us, and we're the ones that asked for it.
And my only point with respect to that is, I'm just conveying what I know. As you might imagine, it's nothing that I or we can control. It's a request that was made to LIPA. I can't dictate what they do. I'm just conveying that I was told by planning staff that there was communication in writing with Mr. Kazakevich.
Okay, again, we could do this all night. We asked for it, and we expect it. They're accepting the power from your property, so if they're accepting it, they want it, they're part of this project, we're gonna wanna see it in writing, because past projects have been conflicting about how much capacity is left in that substation, and two of the past solar projects have told us that they had to rush because there was no more capacity, and they wanted to beat the other company in there. So this is the reason why we're asking for it. We need to know where we are and what's left there, and how much you're gonna be taking from that capacity.
I readily acknowledge that and accept your position, and I wish that I could have other people that I don't control do or write what you would like, but I think it's only fair to the applicant to acknowledge that we did what you requested, and we're told from the town that communication was made to the town attorney. There's nothing more that I could say or do to try to make LIPA honor what you want.
Okay, well, that's gonna be an issue.
Mr. Wisquadro, this is George Gennaro from the planning board. Could you provide us a copy of
I
what
don't
was sent to our town attorney?
It wasn't given to me. I was only told that it took place.
Was it possible for you to get a copy of it?
I could ask Mr. Kazakevich if he would share that with me, and I guess what I'll do too is I'll ask him to share that with you.
The client.
I mean,
Thank you.
I can confirm that there was an email, but it did not state specifically how much capacity is left. PSEG basically said, yes, we have the capacity, but they did not address any of the requests that the planning board specifically asked for in terms of existing capacity and capacity that would remain after the construction of this project.
So I think as town
And that-
planners, I mean, that information is important to us to move forward.
Absolutely.
All right, my next question, the conservation easement, is that gonna be dedicated to the town of Riverhead? And are they gonna accept all, responsibility and liability for that easement? I mean, that's a big piece of property. It looks like, people bike there, people maybe, walk or motorbike. What happens if the town doesn't do anything with it and someone gets hurt on that property?
Well, that's something we haven't gotten to that point yet, in terms of discussing the details of the easement. They've just agreed to the location of it. I guess the details of the easement would need to be discussed with the town attorney's office and the applicant, and it would need to be agreeable. I mean, it doesn't appear as though they'd be dedicating it to the town. It seems like it would just be an easement placed over it, but again, we have not had those discussions yet.
Okay.
My understanding is that, and I've spoken with Mr. Kazakevich, my understanding is that, obviously, let's just place it in proper context, that this was done and accommodated because it was a request at the very, very end, which Mr. Bergman will acknowledge, of the special permit process. So to accommodate the town's wishes, we said, yes, we'll give this easement because it would allow for additional folks to engage in recreational activity by hiking and biking on this area, which previously was not available to them, although the town has told us that people use it informally because there are trails that are already there and therefore does not have to be any disturbance. So my conversations with Mr. Kazakevich have been as follows, that we're willing to give the easement. We hatched out the area at Mr. Bergman's request, so there can be the easement. There would really be nothing about the easement that should prevent or hold up in any way moving this matter forward to a hearing before you, because we're in the process of resolving that, and there would be nothing that would come from that process that would prevent you to vote on the matter.
Okay, it was just a question of liability, so I just put it out there. I don't know if it was discussed, but I
Yeah.
think I'm just looking out for the best interest of the town.
Yeah, and I think that's always, I think if it's going to be an easement, then the town will have to determine how they're going to maintain the easement that's granted to them. But certainly, we're willing, as we've said all along, because it came in as an 11th hour request, we're willing to do whatever we can to accommodate what the town wishes to see there.
Okay, thank you. Greg, were there any comments from the fire marshal on this project?
I have not received any yet.
No fire marshal comments whatsoever?
No.
Okay.
Is there a bonding situation in this?
Yeah, I think that's for the decommissioning plan, right? They put up a bond?
Yeah, that will be a required decommissioning bond, and there was some language in there, like I said, from the special permit to remove any sort of future allowances for scrap or recycling, because we don't know what the recycle market's going to be like in 30 years.
So again, the fire marshal is important to me because this is a major, electrical producing property here, and I mean, there were significant comments from the fire marshal on past projects, so I would expect that we would have more from him on this one.
Are we going to be able to get something from the town attorney regarding the capacity of the substation, PSC substation?
I'll speak with the town attorney about sharing that email chain. Like I said, I will acknowledge the applicant did submit a letter. They did address a letter to PSEG requesting that information. I can't force that hand, but I will speak with the town attorney. If he's all right with sharing that email chain that we spoke about, I will surely do that.
One of the things, if I may, unless there are, and I don't want to interject if there are other questions that you have, but there, so I don't know if there are additional things that the board wish to ask of us.
I do. I have a couple more things here.
Sure. Thank you. Okay.
On the removal plan, I know that there's a hydrant and a fire system on the property, but there's nothing on a removal plan on what's going to happen with that fire system and hydrant on that property. And no comments from the water district on it either, right?
Do you know if there were plans to remove that existing water line and hydrant? I know there's plans to remove, all the structures and the buildings in the property, but were there plans to remove the water infrastructure as well?
I think we need to confirm that with our engineer, the actual plan, perhaps when we, filed for the demolition permit. At that time, the building department recommended leaving the water main in place, abandoning it in place rather, or removing it. Don't know at this particular time, but that's something we could certainly work out with the building department.
I'll only request that it's to the satisfaction of the water district.
Water district.
Greg, you mentioned the crossing detail for the electric tie-in line across Edwards Avenue. I had that in my notes also. They didn't have the water main in the profile there, but also the directional drill. They don't mention the size of the conduits, or I didn't see how many conduits. And I think you mentioned 6 conduits?
Correct.
But what size?
Again, that's something we need clarification from the applicant on. All we have is that side profile. It's not even clearly explicitly stated in the plans that there's going to be 6 conduits. That was something that was just provided in correspondence. So I think that's something that needs to be shown in the plans and addressed to the satisfaction of the board.
So I would question the need for 6 conduits under Edwards Avenue, and I would only approve what is actually needed for this project, and judging by the last project, 1 6-inch pipe did it for them. So why they need so many on this one, I'm not sure, but we should really clarify that.
Hey, this is Michael Dowling from the project. So there have been some items said. We received that memo on Tuesday, and Greg, I know you haven't got a chance to it, but a lot of these items that we have discussed here have already been cured. So specifically, regarding the HCD. We provided that information. It's actually in sheet C106, where we showed a cross hatch of the drawing. Now, I don't know if the drawings you have there in front of you are the ones we sent last night and this morning, but it provides that there's going to be 5 conduits. The reason there needs to be 5 conduits is it's 3-phase power, so 1 phase per conduit, and then there's also 2 conduits for fiber.
For fiber?
Yes,
What's that for? Controls?
communicate. Exactly, communications with the utility.
All right, so just to clarify, I'm looking right now at sheet C106. The last date of revision on the plan is August 9th, 2019. I have had this conversation with the attorney's applicant. Anytime that there's revisions to these plans need to be, the revisions need to be noted so we can keep track of them, to ensure that we're reviewing the same plans, to ensure that, we don't miss one thing from one plan to another. Even though an applicant may consider something like adding a detail for an underground conduit line, they may consider that minor, it's still a change, and that sheet still needs to be noted. But, again, the plans that were received by me today, again, I have not had a chance to write up a report. I will do that, obviously, compare them to previously reviewed plans, but I haven't had a chance to go through all the information that they submitted today.
I'd like our engineer to verify the need for how many conduits would be needed for this project.
I'm looking at the, I guess it would be the western portion of the proposed project, and I'm looking at the topography there. It seems to be considerable slopes. Is there a cut and fill that have been provided as far as what the final elevations are going to look like?
In the current site plan set, there is there's an overall grading plan that shows the proposed contours for the site, and then there's also detailed sheets for specific areas of the site. So there is some grading that's required, but the plan says to balance everything on site, so there's no need to bring in fill or remove anything from the site.
But you don't think you're going to have to move some soil around to flatten out areas so that the actual lamps can be on a level surface?
No, that's what I'm saying. There is. That's what the grading plans do indicate, that there will be some grading areas on the site, and that's shown, the existing contours and the proposed contours. So it shows our grading that will occur on site, and then also shows where our stormwater management basins have been designed as well.
But so you did indicate, and it is shown on page 1, that it will be a balanced cut fill. There won't be a need to import or export any soils to or from the site?
Correct.
I think we have enough reasons here to have someone on site when this is happening. I mean, there is, like Joe said, there's some significant, elevation differences here. We've kind of been around the block on this in the past. My last point, the landscaping Ed had mentioned on River Road, but I'm also concerned with Edwards Avenue. You said you got the plan tonight. We have not seen it. We're going to require that, it's significant and adequate on Edwards Avenue, but also, what's the plan for the fence along Edwards Avenue?
In terms of the detail of the fence?
Well, is that fence coming down that's up and a new one going up?
Guys, I believe the chairman's asking the existing fence on Edwards, will that be removed? Are you going to install a new chain link fence along that Edwards Avenue property lines?
The entire solar facility will be enclosed with new chain link fence. I believe you're referring to the fencing that's behind the residences there along Edwards Avenue.
Well, the whole property along Edwards Avenue, the fence has been hit many, many times, and it's in bad shape. So if you said it's going to be replaced, that's great.
Yeah, I think, I'm certain that it is, right, Bill?
We are proposing all new fencing.
Okay.
All right, great. And then the last thing, we learned from the project across the street that maintenance of the landscaping is an issue. We had to call them every week for about a year to cut down the knee-high grass and maintain the landscaping, so we should add a requirement in here that it has to be maintained on a weekly basis.
We did actually for the recent S-Power project, the one previously, the 20 megawatt, we did actually require a landscaping maintenance bond from the applicant. So that will be something, you know, if we get to the point of any approvals, we'll learn from our old resolutions and we'll carry any of those conditions through when we get to that point.
Okay. Anything else from the board? No. George?
No, I'm good.
All right, so I will review the information that they've submitted today. I will prepare a report and we'll address the board's comments that were raised at this meeting.
Thank you.
Do we know when we'll be back?
I'll make every attempt to review the information. If we can get it on the next agenda, I will. But, you know, this is not the only project, but I will make every effort to review it expeditiously.
But we have the fire marshal and the water district,
And
the
we,
LIPA letter.
Well, again, I just want to say that with respect to the LIPA letter, I just don't think that that is, it's something that can be imposed as part of delaying the applicant when it's just something we can't control.
Well, that's where I just don't understand, because they're taking power from your project, and if they don't want to provide information, they're not being very forthcoming. And, you know, we've learned from past projects that we're getting conflicting information. So it's important to this board as planners to know the capacity of that substation and what's available after this project and what that they can take your capacity. So I think it's well within our right to ask for that. They're accepting, they're part of this project.
I agree
So I
that
can-
you're right, and I want you
Steve,
to,
let me-
I'm not just saying that I can't control it, but go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, Steve, let me jump in here. So regarding the capacity of, can it handle the capacity of our project, that's not in question. So we've been through multiple studies done by both Long Island Power Authority and the New York Independent System Operator that have confirmed the substation does have capacity for our project. I believe, and what your question is directly is, what's the existing capacity, which, you know, we as the applicant really do not know. Only LIPA knows the answer to that. We've complied with everything you've asked us to do, requesting that. But as of now, I don't believe LIPA has made a statement on that. They have provided some form of communication to the town attorney. But for the question of our project, there is capacity for our project. That has been confirmed through the NISO process.
All right.
I mean, I would like to just remind the applicant, we still do not have that easement for the installation of the underground electric line on the LIPA property on the east side of Edwards. I have spoken with the planning board attorney, and I mean, that's a critical component that we're going to need before we can schedule a public hearing. I mean, it would be inappropriate to schedule a public hearing on an application where you have not yet identified the ability to install what you're proposing to install. So I know you did say pending on that easement, but we do need copies of that easement in order to ensure that you have the authority to install that line.
Completely understand, yeah. So just to talk to that a little more, and the memo you sent over, I believe, had 8 items that were outstanding. So in the new drawings and email we sent, you'll see that 7 of them have been cured as of this morning. The item with PSEG-LI, the easement you just noted, we have finished negotiating it. We have sent our execution document over, and we expect to have that closed out, fully executed tomorrow.
So, my follow-up to that would be, again, obviously, the project and the plans submitted are fully compliant with code, and it's been vetted for the better part of 2 years. Obviously, very unfortunate timing and circumstances, but that's been for everyone, and that is that the advent of COVID came at a moment when this was ready to move forward. So when we received the final 8 items that required the clarification from Mr. Bergman on Tuesday, we turned that around essentially within 24 hours. And so what we would respectfully request is, since you'll see, and we submit that he'll see, that those items essentially have been addressed, and the only thing pending, again, is that one easement, which we're told is forthcoming, that could allow us and should allow us to be on the very next calendar, at which point we could set a hearing, because essentially everything has been addressed. Even the pilot, by the way, because remember, the terms of the pilot are already memorialized in an agreed MOU, so the town knows exactly what it's getting and under what circumstances. That MOU has already been agreed to and actually authorized by the town board.
All right, we still don't have comments from the fire marshal, though.
I'll work on getting them.
Okay, so, I mean, we get some of these loose ends tied up. I mean, we'll move it along as fast as we can. I mean, I don't, have a problem going to the public hearing, but I think it's just a little premature without having some of these, I mean, we haven't even seen the landscape plan yet. It came in today, so we haven't seen that. No comments from the fire marshal. Some of the other things I brought up, I think you either explained them or they could be easily remedied. So, really, it's just those couple things.
Understood. And we did provide a landscape plan prior, and I believe, Greg, you reviewed it and looked over it. The updated plan that we submitted yesterday encompassed some changes that were requested of us, so we went and made those changes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Okay, next item is Riverhead Townhomes on 3rd Street in Riverhead.
Stan, before we start this, I have to see if this is a typo.
Which one do you want?
I'm on Riverhead Townhomes, are you on?
Yeah,
The resolution number at the top.
Yeah, it
Yes.
says .14 of an acre. Is that correct, or is that a typo?
Correct. That is
That's
correct.
correct.
Yeah, it is a small parcel on 3rd Street. It is a residential block. They are very small parcels, but yes, that is correct.
Okay, they're single-family homes over there, aren't they?
Correct. I believe they're single-family homes. I think there might be some converted office buildings. There might be some two-family homes. I don't have
Yeah.
an analysis of all the surrounding areas, but yes, it is
Are
a
you going
residential.
to review what variances they're going to be requesting?
Correct. Well, that's actually why this is just a brief update. So the application, it is for a 2-story, 3-unit townhome with a footprint of 1,029 square feet. The applicant has made a zoning board of appeals application. That zoning board of appeals application cannot be acted on. We initiated a coordinated review for this application because it was a type 1, because it's located in the historic district. So we did initiate that coordinated review. The zoning board cannot act on this until the planning board issues a negative declaration. So we have a resolution here to assume lead agency and issue the negative declaration so that they're able to proceed with the required variances from the zoning board.
Do you know what variances they're requiring, or no?
I believe we were looking for, they were impervious surface coverage, and I believe setbacks. There were some setback variances, impervious coverage, and a drive aisle width for the proposed asphalt driveway on the property.
I would imagine they're huge amounts of variance, too.
so is that all you needed to tell us, Greg? Is
Yeah,
it
yeah, it's
for the
just,
secret?
we've got a resolution that if the board acts on it, it'll allow the zoning board to act on their variances, and then it could move forward through the planning board.
And then we'd have them, if they get the variance, they'd come back for us to discuss the application.
Correct.
Okay.
So these units are less than 700 feet on 2 stories?
I believe so. Yes, they are. I mean, they're small. I mean, by our code, by the definition of the building, it is considered a townhome because it is 3 units, which share common walls. But yes, they are by no means, huge residential units.
Wow.
That's an understatement.
Okay. All right, next item, the applicant wasn't on tonight, right, Greg, for this?
For Riverhead Townhomes?
Yeah, no, okay. Norfolk Developers, this was for the yield map, right?
Correct. And I believe for this application, we do have, I know Charles Cuddy is in the room, and we may have Gary Sherman as well.
I'm here.
They're both. We are here.
All right, so we've spoken about this application several times before. This is a proposed major subdivision application. We're in the yield map phase. It's a roughly 12.8 acre parcel located within the RA 40 zoning use district, located off of Kathy Lane and Rabbit Run. The applicant, we've had some back and forth and discussions pretty consistently through the pendency of this application. What we have now is the applicant has submitted an 11-lot yield map, which now shows a 42,000 square foot area reserved for stormwater recharge on site. We did receive comments yesterday afternoon from the town's consulting engineer. Town's consulting engineer states that the yield map provides a total of 11 lots. All the lots have a minimum parcel area of 40,000 square feet. Subdivision layout involves extending the roadway of Kathy Lane through the property to the north and a second short roadway that extends south. Each roadway terminates in a cul-de-sac. The right-of-ways are 55 feet. The drainage area is proposed in the southeast corner. Access to the drainage area is proposed through a 20-foot wide access drive. He noted that the standard yield plan substantially conforms to the dimensional requirements of the zoning code and appears that the subdivision roadways can be constructed in a manner that conforms to the subdivision road and drainage standards. It states that at this time, the planning board may consider a yield of 11 lots for the subject subdivision with the understanding that a sketch plan must contain an on-site designated recharge area. Essentially, for the yield map, planning department would be satisfied, the town's consulting engineer is satisfied, understanding that when we go forward to the sketch plan, the actual location of that reserve, the 42,000 square feet that is reserved for drainage, could be shifted around the parcel to accommodate for natural grades and retention of that stormwater. So at this point, it was for the board if they had any additional questions on the yield map.
Did the highway superintendent take a look at the site? I thought we talked about that last time, that they.
Correct. We
were gonna
actually,
go out there.
correct. I did do myself, the town's consulting engineer, and the highway superintendent. We did a drive-through. We looked at the parcel. We looked at the surrounding area, so he has seen it. That was one of the initial comments that came through when this application was proposing to manage it all in the roadway. The highway superintendent stated that he didn't want to manage an entire stormwater system within a roadway because it would create additional work for his crew. So where we are at this point now, they have reserved the area for drainage. The yield map is in a point where it would be acceptable to move forward at this point.
Good.
We do have some concerns that we'd like to address too. Well, one of our chief concerns has been that it's an RA 40 parcel. And as an RA 40 parcel, we're entitled to use it under the code, under your code, to have really a workforce housing situation. And if we have that workforce housing situation, which would allow us to have 22 lots, and we don't do that, then we are exempt from the workforce housing provision. And we believe that's true in this case, and therefore that we can build on this site more than just 11 lots. And I believe the town community development director adheres to that position.
So it could potentially go from 11 to 22?
So there is a provision in the RA 40 zoning use district which allows a developer to develop a major subdivision. The minimum lot size in that workforce housing would go down to 20,000 square feet with the condition that any increased density, those units would be considered affordable units. So if a developer did intend to utilize that section of code, again, with this, I don't want to get into the legalities of it. I'm not a lawyer. I know we are speaking with the Community Development Agency, and we are working on putting some codification into the code regarding workforce housing. So I don't really want to speak out of turn because I'm not a lawyer, so I can't speak to
So if they
that.
went to 22, then half of those lots would be workforce housing?
Correct. At least I believe so.
Or all, we're not sure.
Again, so this is something that we are,
Or all?
we're actively working on. I mean, and this is a fundamental question that is impacting, we have a number of major subdivision applications. So this is a question that's larger than just this application.
So it has to be decided between the yield map and the sketch plan.
Correct.
Well, we think that the code is pretty direct. I mean, it doesn't leave too much room. It says exactly what we were just announcing to you, and that is that you can have a 22-unit site, and we did not choose to do that. And when we don't choose to do that, we can have a mixture of different numbers, and I think if you speak to Dawn Thomas, she will agree with that. And so therefore, we could have perhaps 11 lots and then maybe 4 more that are workforce housed. And I think that's what it's intended to do, and that's what it seems to say. So I don't think there's a great deal that we can discuss about it. I think it's already there.
So you'll surprise us.
I do believe the fundamental thing here is getting the initial yield map approval on which everything is predicated. You know, we've had this back and forth between 11 lots, 12 lots. I mean, the board approves the 11-lot yield map, which you have before you. At that point, that's when I think we build and expound upon these things and come to a solution on it. But
Yes, we agree with Mr. Bergman, that's true, but we just wanted to bring this to your attention because we've been working on this for a considerable period. So we would like to have the yield map approved, but we want you to know that we have an interest in building out perhaps more than 11 lots.
Okay, so maybe I'll just point out one thing also, if we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. One, with the situation with the water district, can they service these 11 lots or potentially 22 lots? One. And two, would the water district need any property in this subdivision? Because that question has been posed to me many times from, I'll just say, town officials, that we need to be considering property for the water district on any one of these subdivisions, especially in the case where they can't supply adequate water to the applicant. So perhaps, you know, early stages, albeit, let's reach out to the water district and ask those questions.
I have had conversations with the water district superintendent, and his main concern when we're talking about residential subdivisions is not so much the actual dwelling units themselves. They're a relatively minor water flow. The superintendent's concerns mainly come when it comes to irrigation. So now there was recently legislation put into the town code which requires certain areas to be minimally landscaped, requires smart controllers. But so I know we will work closely with the water district because that is critical as to whether or not they can serve these parcels.
And if they would be interested in any property here.
So just to get the board's all right with this
Yes.
11-lot yield map, so we can prepare a resolution to approve a yield map, and then we can move forward with the application.
Thank you.
Can I
Thank
just
you.
ask a question? It's Gary Sherman. I just wanted to get a little bit of direction, because you spent an awful lot of time from the board, what, now that the members finally have the yield, and maybe Greg, you can help out on this, is what are you expecting this, we'd like to have a little direction on the sketch maps, where you'd like to get to work on that. And, what are you, because I know from my conversation with Dawn Thomas, she had indicated that the town board was very interested in having some some workforce housing if that was possible. Not just 11 market rate lots, but having whatever that might be, and working with the town board to come up with some type of, whether it's a prototype or pilot program or something, and I'm definitely amenable to that. I have no interest in trying to build out 22 lots. I think that would look horrible. I think it's too dense. It's not going to work. But there is some number between 11 and, let's say, I'm just going to, 15, 16, whatever they might be, that seem to be a very workable, concept. But I just wanted to hear from, because I've sat in other planning board sessions where there's been some direction once the yield map is resolved as to what you're thinking, what you'd like to see here. Is your preference just 11 lots, of market rate lots? Are you looking to have some workforce housing related homes that would sell for below the market value?
I don't think that's up to us.
Yeah, I don't know that we can answer that right now with that pending question, right? I don't know that it would be appropriate right now.
Correct. I mean, I have spoken with Dawn Thomas. I know we're scheduling a meeting with Mr. Sherman to discuss exactly that point. Like I said, some density that's afforded by the code, he could do it, I don't want to say as of right, but within the mechanisms of the code, he could provide a density bonus, provided that would be preserved as workforce housing. The issue of affordability on Long Island is, a critical issue at this point. So I don't see that it's necessarily a bad thing, but again, that's something that we need to, we're going to have a meeting with Dawn Thomas and speak about this. And again, putting into effect the Workforce Housing Act into our town code is something that's going to require town board input. So, at this point, I don't know that it's appropriate for the board to give their, hard and fast opinion for something that's not yet written in the code.
Okay, I just wanted to hear that. So it sounds like maybe it's advisable we wait, if we're going to go down the workforce housing path. This is the question. I can certainly hold off for 2 more weeks. It's been a year and a quarter. I can hold off another 2 more weeks just to see how that, how that meeting goes. Option B, I guess, would be if we would like to proceed just on the market rate and not pursue the workforce housing. Is it your understanding that we would be entitled to 11 market rate lots and we could go ahead and do our sketch maps on that basis?
I'm not an attorney, Dick. I don't know if you can speak to that. I don't really want to. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, so to speak.
We'll have our meeting, and then we'll go forward from there.
Counsel of the planning board said we'll have the meeting as discussed with you, myself, Dawn Thomas,
Okay.
and we'll come to an answer. We're not ready to give an answer at this point.
All right, thank you very much. Fair enough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5 on the agenda, SL Gateway LLC, Riverhead Liquor Mart. Brian.
The Planning Department has received and reviewed a site plan application seeking approval to construct a 1,945 square foot addition to an existing retail store. The proposed addition would expand the retail space currently occupied by Riverhead Liquor Mart, located within the Gateway Plaza Shopping Center at 1866 Old Country Road. It's within the DRC zoning use district. The application proposes the use of previously acquired development rights from an approved future expansion of a Peconic Bay Medical Center remote site hospital, which remains unconstructed. Under the proposal, Peconic Bay Medical Center would waive the right to construct the previously approved 1,945 square foot expansion, and the development rights associated with the waived expansion would then be utilized to construct the newly proposed expansion to Riverhead Liquor Mart. The proposed site plan application is an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA. Coordinated review is optional and not recommended. Staff recommends that the planning board assume lead agency status without coordinated review and issue a negative declaration. The proposed action is consistent in character with the current use of the parcel. It is not anticipated to cause any significant negative environmental impacts. The subject parcel, located at 1866 Old Country Road, is a 20.72 acre parcel located within the DRC, Destination Retail Center zoning use district. The site is presently improved with 3 buildings. The northwestern area of the parcel is occupied by a retail building currently operating as a Walmart. Near the northeastern corner of the parcel, there's a 27,000 square foot retail building currently occupied by retailer Bob's Discount Furniture as well as by Riverhead Liquor Mart, for which the new 1,940 square foot expansion is proposed. Near the southeast corner of the property is a 3,500 square foot medical building. This is the Peconic Bay Medical Center Remote Site Hospital. Surrounding uses include a New York State DOT maintenance yard to the west of the subject parcel, LIPA, PSEG overhead transmission lines, and a commercial industrial use to the north, and a mixed retail and restaurant use to the east. The most recent site plan application for the subject parcel was approved in 2015. It approved a final site plan for Peconic Bay Medical Center Remote Site Hospital. The resolution granted approval for the immediate construction of a 3,500 square foot hospital along with a 1,945 square foot future expansion of this hospital. Other associated site improvements were also approved by this resolution and site plan. To date, only the 3,500 square foot hospital was constructed per this approval. The application proposed an expansion on the western side of the 27,000 square foot single-story retail building on the retail space occupied by Liquor Mart. Additional improvements relating to the proposed expansion include the addition of a new asphalt paved area to the rear of the expansion, a distribution transformer box and other electrical equipment currently exist within this area to be paved. New bollards are proposed to protect this equipment. And a new roll-up loading door and egress door also proposed in the rear of the new expansion. Provided elevations and floor plans indicate that the proposed expansion will be constructed to match the existing building. Proposed exterior changes include the relocation of an existing cupola and the relocation of an existing gable with materials and finishes to match the existing building. The existing outdoor covered walkway area surrounding the building is also proposed to be reconstructed to match with the limits of the newly expanded retail space. As mentioned previously, the September 2015 site plan approval required TDRs for the proposed expansion of the 1,945 square foot expansion of the hospital on site. Under this proposal, the expansion of that hospital would be waived, and the TDRs already applied to the site would then be used to construct the expansion to the liquor store, which is of the same square footage. The current site plan shows a proposed impervious surface coverage of 79.18%, or 714,726 square feet. This degree of impervious surface coverage exceeds the 78.94%, or 712,560 square feet impervious surface coverage approved by the previous site plan approval, and as such would require relief from the ZBA. The applicant had initially indicated their intent to land bank additional parking stalls to reduce the proposed impervious surface coverage to an amount that would match the previous approval. Recent conversations with the applicant's representative indicate that they now intend to propose pervious pavers to replace a number of existing parking stalls to reduce the amount of impervious surface coverage. Per the town's parking schedule, the site is currently in 124 stalls in excess of what's required by the code. Approximately 5 to 10 stalls, based on conversations with the applicant, would be converted into stalls to be paved with pervious pavers. The only modification to the existing site lighting is a relocation of canopy lighting currently installed under the outdoor covered area. These lights are proposed and currently exist as metal halide lights, which are not permissible under town code. So any exterior lighting must either receive approval by the town engineer for its type or must comply with the requirements outlined in the town code. The Architectural Review Board has reviewed the project and approved the elevations subject to submission of final working drawings with the condition that all illegal window signs be removed, referring to decal signs in the windows. They also mentioned the need for a new sign application to be submitted when the sign is relocated, per the relocation of the exterior wall of the building. We do have a representative from the applicant on the Zoom call tonight. We have Kimberly Judd. If the board has any questions.
Brian, so what's gonna happen to all those utilities and the transformer and all the electrical equipment there?
Under the current proposal, just the protection is proposed around them. They would be located somewhat central to the newly proposed asphalt paving in
They'll
the
be
area.
relocated?
I'm sorry?
They're gonna be relocated?
The current proposal shows them to remain in their existing location.
So is that compliant with PSE&G regulations? If they're gonna build around it, are they still gonna be able to get in there to do their work and service it?
I would have to check with their regulations.
Do we get a site plan?
By Chuck Miller, our engineer is here. Did you want to speak to that?
Sure, yes. They will still have access to get in there and prepare maintenance or any repairs.
Is that based on, what's that based on?
That's based on the clear area around the transformer.
So how close is the extension gonna be to the transformer?
Oh, that's...
What about all the electrical equipment that's mounted on the side of the building there?
That's to remain as well.
So the extension's not gonna impact that at all? And there'll be
Correct.
access from the rear?
And the extension is 20, I don't have the site plan in front of me, but I'd say it's at least like 20 feet or so from the transformer.
Do we have a site plan yet?
Yeah, it was provided in the packets.
Didn't get one. I didn't get one,
I'll make sure you get a copy.
please.
Okay,
I need
On-
one. I want one.
what's that, Dick?
I didn't get one either.
You didn't get one either? I got some, but anyway. The TDRs, so the hospital says that they're not gonna use them. So when they were purchased, do they get purchased for the entire parcel, or is it just specific to what the hospital was looking to do?
They were actually purchased by the owner of the parcel for the expansion of the hospital building. So the Mylar is going to have a box on it that indicates the chain of ownership of the TDRs, extinguishment for the hospital addition, and permission on this. So the site, the TDR goes to the site,
Okay,
not to the user of the site.
so after this expansion, will there be anything left for this property?
They could buy more TDRs.
They could buy more.
There's still some outstanding too. They sold a tenth of a credit to somebody else. It's in the report.
Yes,
And they still have a little bit left, like a half a credit.
a fractional share.
Yeah.
But that's a share that hasn't been applied to any structure.
Right, that's right, just there.
So it's not a utilizable use on the site until the board were to consider an appropriate addition that would utilize.
Okay, but you answered my questions for the whole site. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Nope. No question.
George, nothing?
No question.
Okay.
Just would like to briefly mention, we do have a resolution scheduled on the agenda to schedule a public hearing for this application.
Yeah, okay. All right, very good. Okay, next item is item 6 on the agenda, LIDL Riverhead.
This is just a brief update on the project that was reviewed at the last planning board meeting for the Lidl supermarket, which is proposing to occupy the space formerly occupied by the Toys R Us retailer. We scheduled an amended resolution, which basically was slight revisions were made to add requirements that covenants be filed to properly establish the cross-access agreement that was discussed during the review process.
Okay. Is the applicant aware of those revisions, and they're okay with them?
Yeah, they've received a draft copy. We do have a representative on the line from Bowler, Kristen DeLuca. I haven't received any objections to the draft copy, but I'm not sure if they have any comments at this time.
Yes, the conditions are acceptable.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Brian. Okay, no public hearings on the agenda tonight. Are there any comments from the public on resolutions? Any public comments on resolutions?
Stan, I have a question, maybe for Greg. Riverhead Townhomes, that 3 units on tick over an 1/8 acre, is that in the sewer district?
Yes, sir, it is.
Is that unit going to be hooked up to the sewer district?
Yes, it would be.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay. All right, so no public comments on resolutions. We'll go right to the resolutions.
I'll move resolution number 9, which authorizes the planning board to publish a public hearing for the SL Gateway project.
Second the motion?
Motion made and seconded to approve resolution 9 to schedule a public hearing for SL Gateway LLC. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Resolution is approved.
I'll move resolution 10, Lidl Riverhead, to amend the conditions of the approval, as contained in our former resolution 07. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve resolution 10 for LIDL to amend resolution 2021-007. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution's approved. Number 3 on the agenda.
I'll move resolution number 11, Riverhead Townhouses, assume lead agency status as issue a negative deck pursuant to SEQA for a preliminary site plan application. Propose to develop a vacant 6,112 square feet, parcel of land with a 2-story, 3-unit townhouse development with a footprint of 1,029 square feet and total floor area of 2,058 square feet.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve resolution 11, Riverhead Townhomes for lead agency and issue a negative deck. All in favor? Aye.
Stan, I just want to point out what you just said, that this is only for lead agency, so I am going to vote yes on that, but I think we really have to take a look at
Sure.
3 homes in a 1 acre, 1 home lot on a less than a quarter.
Stan?
Yes.
Stan, I take the same position. I want to take a look at this a little bit further.
Okay, well, I'm sure we'll get into it, but this is procedural
Okay.
for their variances. They'll certainly be back in front of
Yeah,
us.
they have to go to ZBA
Yeah.
after this.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just for the neg deck, as Ed indicated. So, again, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution's approved.
Move resolution number 12, 1792 Middle Road, Breezy Hill Group, deems the draft environmental impact inadequate for public review at this time. So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 12, Breezy Hill on Middle Road for an inadequate DEIS. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution's approved.
Move resolution number 13, which is 244 Old Country Road, Diamond Builders, granting administrative site plan. So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 13, 244 Old Country Road, Diamond Builders, for an administrative site plan approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution's approved. Any public comment on any matter tonight? Anyone from the public have anything for the board? Okay, minutes from January 21st.
Yeah, move the minutes of the January 21st planning board meeting, so moved.
Second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Other business. So I just have one quick thing, and that is the BJ's gas station on Route 58 in Ostrander Avenue. I got a couple complaints from people about traffic problems there. I actually saw it myself on 2 separate occasions. From what I see, it's a major traffic problem. Cars are backing up out onto Route 58, the light's changing. So,
I agree, it's a mess.
it's really, so I think we should take a look. Did we require a traffic study for that? All right, so perhaps we could write a letter to the applicant saying that there's an issue there and we really want to talk to him about it. Unless there's any other action, I know you mentioned Jefferson about the chief of police. I don't know if you contacted him, but it's a serious problem right there at that location with that gas station.
I frequent the site on a twice-weekly basis between my car and my family car. And I've observed it firsthand myself. It is a dangerous situation. I reached out to Chris Kent, who's the applicant's attorney, during the planning board review process to get a contact name from BJ's directly, because I want to speak with him directly, not through an attorney. Advise him of the situation to see what can be done, because it is a bad situation.
Okay, perhaps we should put something in writing to him.
I want to get that information as well. Trying to get through to a corporation like that is very difficult sometimes. That's why getting a name firsthand. Sometimes I'll do both. If I can get an email address, contact name, phone number, I'll do it all. But I agree with you 100%.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, next meeting is February 18th at 3 p.m. Motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, have a good night.
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Yep, same to you.